So welcome to all of you, and really appreciate the time here. This is always one of the things I actually look forward to the most at our various Discovers, because I don't know, the discussions are just always really fun. I don't know how to say that another way. So I'm losing my voice a little bit here at Discover, so forgive me if I pause or drink water or suck on a cough drop or something like that. But I think what we generally try to do is just a few brief comments at the beginning and then just totally Q&A. That sound good? So
what you did yesterday.
Yeah. So we had a couple of pretty big announcements here at Discover this year. The first is around our hyperconverged offerings. What we've done is we've taken some of our technology and introduced multi-tenancy technology into our hyperconverged platform. It's something we call workspaces, and you can read all about it in our announcement, but it's pretty darn cool. We think it's unique in the industry, and what really gives you the great access to it, the real cool thing about it is we've also implemented a self-service portal so that you can get at the actual workspaces for a line of business. So now customers in that medium business kind of type of shop can be a true ISP for their internal customers and set up a sandbox or a playground or whatever you want to call it of virtualized resources that they can log in and provision for themselves, just like you would do on a cloud, for example, right in our hyperconverged platform. And meanwhile, on the back side of that, the front side is the self-service portal where customers can, internal customers, ISP type customers for the IT department, we put that portal in there. On the backside, we've greatly beefed up the analytics capability. We leveraged some of the technologies we had inside Hewlett-Packard Enterprise to provide a lot more measurement, analytics, even some billing capabilities. If you wanted to bill as an ISP to your internal lines of business, we have the data to track that, so you could do that as a customer. It's a very strong offering and something we're pretty darn proud of. And that was a big announcement from yesterday. The other one that we're talking about here is Synergy. So certainly, when we introduced Synergy and composable infrastructure, the market wasn't sure what to do for a while. Our competitors said, oh, that stuff doesn't matter. Then they realized, no, the customers really love it, and they do think it matters. Then they said, we have that too. And now they're not sure what to do because they figured out, no, they don't actually have that too. Synergy is unique to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. The uniqueness stems from kind of the core architecture, and that's fluid pools of resources of compute, storage, and fabric that can be assigned dynamically to a given workload. And when they're done, return to a pool. Comes in a standard infrastructure, scales to multiple chassis. We've got momentum on it. We have almost 100 customers. We had probably 5, 6, 7 of them on stage in various sessions here at Discover, 3 in my spotlight, 1 more I had on the main stage, all talking about their Synergy experience, and we're basically opening the floodgates for volume shipments on Synergy right now. We've told customers if you order one today, you can have it in your data center in January. Full ramp, factories loaded up, ready to rock with Synergy. That wasn't the announcement. That's just our momentum. The announcement was we've brought our HPE Cloud System 10 technology to the Synergy platform. So now we have HPE Helion Cloud System 10 on top of Synergy, our world-class hybrid cloud solution that allows you to not only provision hardware against the needs of an application, but also we service provision public cloud for both Azure and AWS as part of our Cloud System 10 cloud portal. So really strong offering there, big news on Synergy. Those are the big 2 announcements from Discover this year. We're having a great time with just a ton of customers, customer meetings, and the amount of excitement that's carried through with the introduction of composable infrastructure is certainly fantastic. And if you think about, kind of the behind the scenes on that, if you think about how are they doing some of this? Well, actually, we're taking some of the composable technologies like our OneView core infrastructure automation software and expanding and building on some of those capabilities to be able to do some of the things like our multi-tenancy inside of our hyper-converged offering. So we're just making more use of the technology that we've built and spreading that further across the product line, and we're pretty excited about that. So,
talk about yourself. Talk about yourself and
sure, my role and all that. Yeah, great, thank you. Sorry, I guess we are plugging questions. We'll let you guys answer them here in a minute. When we met last year, I was doing a role called Converged Data Center Infrastructure. And that really was the synergy platforms, hyper-converged platforms, blade system platforms, a lot of hardware and software, but really emphasizing the converged aspects and the software-defined aspects. What we decided over the course of the year, really based on Hewlett-Packard's strategy, which I'll go back to in a second, but was that hybrid IT, making hybrid IT simple is going to be a core strategic pillar for the company. We can talk about what the other ones are. I think you guys already know those. But in doing that, we should get one group really focused on making hybrid IT simple for our customers, not just the software-defined infrastructure part of that, not just the converged and composable part of that, but even the software assets, the cloud assets, and have that focus on making that hybrid IT journey as simple as possible for our customers. And so we put that all in one group, called it the Software Defined and Cloud Group. I'm leading that group. So it takes some of what I was doing before and adds on the cloud software assets inside of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And maybe, I'm going to wander here a little bit because I think you guys probably want to talk about that as well. You've seen various spin merge announcements for the company. You've seen, software announcements. You've seen rumors and blogs and tweets and all kinds of things. I'm going to maybe step back a little bit and describe what's going on at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise with the strategy and what has that meant in terms of some of these announcements and what are we doing in software and in cloud and all of that. Because I think you'll want to know a little bit about that. So when we split off from Hewlett-Packard HP Inc., the consumer side of the business, we looked a lot at the strategy of the company and said, how do we succeed in enterprise? And came to some key conclusions about where the market is headed and about where we can add the most value. And one of the conclusions we made based on the data in the market is that public cloud is growing certainly very quickly. It's growing maybe 20% a year. Private cloud is growing almost as quickly. It's growing at about 17% per year. And that data, combined with the data we have from our customers, including the 3 that I met with this morning, the entire world is headed to a hybrid IT world. There will be a few outliers who say, I'm just going completely to the public cloud. But even the ones who have kind of said, we've tried that, we probably still need to be hybrid. Or even the ones we know that have said, we're doing all of that, it's really one piece of their business. Public cloud is an important trend, but what we're finding is that customers, what they're really demanding is the cloud experience, which is things like self-service portals and being able to immediately develop and deploy applications in the simplest environment possible. And being able to change the consumption model and how they pay for their IT access. Those are the key features that customers are demanding. Whether it's on-prem or off-prem is just a choice. It's an implementation choice. And so we've concluded that one of the pillars of the company is we need to capitalize on this hybrid IT trend, and the company that makes that the most seamless and simple for their customers will win. And so that's exactly what we're attempting to do, and we're well on the way. If you look at our offerings today, whether it's in hyperconverged, whether it's in cloud system, whether it's in Helium OpenStack, whether it's in the synergy composable infrastructure, that's the direction we're heading. And you can see, even as we announce our ecosystem around composable infrastructure, the ecosystem isn't focused on just data center management or on, infrastructure management. It's focused on hybrid IT, and the announcement on Cloud System 10 on Synergy, it's focused on how do you bridge public and private clouds, how do you do that in the most seamless way possible, and give customers a choice of where they run their applications and where they develop their applications. So the other key strategic pillars of the company, the one was, I mentioned, hybrid IT. Another is certainly around our infrastructure business, and so we put that in one group called the Data Center Infrastructure Group. And that focuses on our world-class software-defined infrastructure and traditional infrastructure and converged infrastructure, selling our servers, our network, our storage. That business is a very strong pillar for us. And then the other one is the intelligent edge. And you see that around Aruba and our IoT work that we have going on. So those are three strategic pillars. We're playing in the one area there, making hybrid IT simple. I'll make a couple comments on okay, so what does that mean with some of our software announcements, and maybe have Bobby jump in there and say some of that. So what we're doing is, as we're focusing on making hybrid IT simple, we started to evaluate what assets do we have in the company that are really focused in that direction, and we realized we've been working hard as a company to contribute and make sure that OpenStack was enterprise grade, and creating Helion OpenStack and contributing. Now we believe that through our work and the work of all of the open source partners, OpenStack is enterprise grade. It's ready for prime time. And much like we're not in the business of doing a dedicated Linux distribution, if you will, but Linux is an important partner, and we ship that on our hardware, and it's part of an open ecosystem. We kind of are starting to view our OpenStack work a little bit in the same way, which is, we don't need to do a dedicated specific the blocking and tackling of an underlying distro mechanism. We can work with partners who specialize on that to do that. And we'll focus more on the value add, how we integrate it with our system, how we combine it with containers as a service, how we combine it with traditional kind of architectures like VMware, how we continue to offer OpenStack as a key IaaS environment on our hardware. So we're changing a little bit of our development strategy. We're still very much proponents of OpenStack. We're still very much on board, and we still are going to support every customer and add more customers on OpenStack. We plan to do that. We're just going to not do as much of the blocking and tackling or the base level work in OpenStack. We're going to partner for that. The partner we've chosen is SUSE, and we announced that. We announced our intent to partner a while back, and then today we have specific announcements on transferring some talent and some IP to enable them to do that work. And then, yeah, exactly. So that's hot off the presses. So that's really what we're doing in OpenStack land. But I think it's important to note that we're changing a bit of our development model on OpenStack, but we still have a whole lot of cloud software work going on inside Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. In fact, the entire cloud system team is still cranking along on the future of that. A chunk of the OpenStack team is working on not just Helionizing, if you will, the SUSE OpenStack distribution, but also working on our future multi-cloud platforms that'll be multi-IaaS, multi-cloud, just like Cloud System is today, except enhancing those capabilities. That's where we're going, and we're continuing to invest to make hybrid IT simple, both in cloud software as well as software-defined infrastructure software. So that's kind of what we're doing. Did I miss anything there?
I would summarize it. I'd summarize it as shifting from a code contributor model to a market maker model. We're actually hiring around OpenStack. Where we're hiring today is on the services front end. We're hiring in the support area. When we and Rick travels the globe as well. When you get out into Asia or other areas where they're deploying OpenStack, they need help integrating their environments, and that's where HPE can really shine, right? And so I think characterize it as shifting to market maker from code contributor. SUSE, we just presented with SUSE at our keynote. They described it as we have a shared vision for OpenStack. We're going to accelerate momentum with OpenStack. We're going to continue to sponsor the foundation and participate in the summits and drive meetups in cities all around the world. And so no one should take away that we are backing away from OpenStack or Cloud Foundry at all. In fact, for SUSE, this is net new in the PaaS area, and they're completely supportive of Cloud Foundry as well. So, and we're hiring. It's just we're going to hire on the front lines now.
I'm really skeptical about synergy and all the stuff that you are working, because if I look at the rest of the industry, they are going all towards an opposite direction. Okay, so stupid boxes and a lot of software on top of it. NSX for networking and a lot of VSA connected scale-out environments, and it's really inefficient, but no one cares. All the customers that I meet all days, they say, we don't care, because it's much more expensive today to hire people to manage these things than put together a pool of resources as you do and reconfigure it the day later. It's much easier to do that at the software level. So
so a couple of points here. I think I agree with you. We are doing it at a software level. We have integrated software that does the resource reallocation for you. You don't do it. You don't spend time and labor on it. But let's go back to your primary point, which is the whole industry's going the other way. If you look at infrastructure sales today, hottest categories, hyper-converged, that's a software-defined infrastructure. Converged, that's a software-defined infrastructure.
The converged is declining. So software-defined. So take a Nutanix, for example.
Sure.
It's a stupid box.
Make sure you quote the right people.
Yeah. No, it's just a super micro or a Dell box, okay, with a bunch of disk in it. It's x86, and they do everything on software. And they, a few weeks ago, they launched an initiative for the networking stuff too. So, why spending money on more hardware? And it's okay.
No, but I mean, not trying to defend competitors' boxes and all that other stuff, but I think you're nitpicking. Where's the software? I think we're in agreement. Software is where a lot of the value add is happening in our infrastructure these days. And whether it's a layer of software pasted across a whole host of stupid hardware, as you called it, I don't think of it as stupid hardware. There's a lot of innovation in our hardware, but whether it's a layer of software pasted across all those, or whether it's built into every hardware platform that you sell, let's say software-defined infrastructure capabilities are built in, or infrastructure automation capabilities like OneView is on every piece of hardware you sell, and then that piece of hardware is smart enough to self-assemble, self-conglomerate, if you will, or federate with other pieces of hardware and provide the same experience that you're talking about. All you're talking about is, are you distributing that software control plane into different entities, a distributed management kind of thing, or are you pasting it across a bunch of entities? It's still all software. It's still all kind of the same stuff. So I think your point is that the industry's going a totally different direction. I think it's the same direction. It's just how do you do it? Do you say just buy a bunch of vanilla stuff and put generic software on it and treat every data center like a snowflake, where you do a custom install for what it specifically wants? Or do you build repeatable building blocks that self-federate through software-defined capabilities and become their own? Right now, we can do it from an infrastructure point of view on composable, but what if in the future we could do that in a self-assembling cloud, where you have enough of the cloud bits on every single platform that they automatically talk to their neighbors and say, yeah, I'm part of the same cloud. How do we gang up on this problem? So I think it's the same direction. You're nitpicking on, I agree with you. The action is in software. We're fully aligned. But I think there are different ways you can think about where that software is living. I mean,
I agree with you. So I see your point, because you are a hardware company.
The value in synergy is software. The value in synergy is it's a software value proposition. It's software-defined infrastructure,
right, but,
and the magic that goes on in a synergy is a software thing. So
I would like to see it on Supermicro and Dell servers. Sorry if I'm saying that, but
You would
actually,
like to see
but
our-
actually the problem is I don't want to be stuck with a single hardware vendor because I'm a cloud guy. I don't care about hardware anymore, right? So I'm not actually, but the end user wants the cloud, and the cloud experience is that if I want to look in today, the look-in is Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Because
Today that may be the case for customers who there's a couple of type of customers. There's the
I'm not talking about traditional customers. I'm talking about these hybrid guys that you are looking for. Okay.
Yeah, well, boy, there's a whole bunch of meat here. We'll have to start taking notes on all the stuff that we'd have to talk about. Those traditional customers, many of them are becoming hybrid customers. I would say most of them.
But they have a traditional mentality. Yeah.
They do. But like the ones I'm meeting with all day today are talking about they need to transform into being internal service providers for their customers, because what's going on in the market is that IT is demanded to be at the forefront of the business, not in the background anymore, right? In most businesses, in most, and there's a bit of a revolt going on where the app devs are saying, I need instant access to resources. I don't want to generate POs. I don't want to do service tickets. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to be able to develop and deploy applications. And so for a while, the only answer to those questions, to that stress is, well, then you just go to the public cloud and you ignore your IT guy. But the IT departments and the companies are realizing, well, that doesn't need to be the only answer. If someone can make that experience simple for us, then we can be that internal service provider, and you can do app dev on the infrastructure we're already buying if you can create that. And that's what we're really trying to create. Now, your argument would be, well, I can do that if I get a set of software that I layer across cheap hardware, and I can do that on some vanilla thing. There's not a big debate in the market about, well, what's the server underneath and this and that. The debate is, how do I get there the easiest? One of the current easiest answers is get to public cloud. We're making it so that, well, another answer is when you buy your infrastructure today, it comes with that capability already built in. It has Docker already on it. You can generate applications in containers from the get-go. It's not a big choice kind of thing of where you do that. Or you can do
You can sell Docker as an advantage,
and
right?
for some
Maybe
customers,
that's a problem.
For some customers who want to implement a public cloud-looking thing in their own data center, it turns out today to be a very intense, big custom project, a snowflake, as we would call it. It's very dedicated to what they're doing. It's really tough to do. I think one of the things we can bring value to as Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is bringing that capability, that private cloud with hybrid capabilities, to the mainstream, to the masses, to people who are already buying a lot of infrastructure today so that it's just built natively in. That's a different kind of strategy.
So I have.
Can I say it another way? Maybe a little, just to jump in real quick from a developer perspective, right? So, I'm using Riak. I need a certain degree of configuration for disk and memory. I'm using Redis. I need lots of memory. I need different configurations. What developers need is the right infrastructure. What they want is provisioning instantly. They don't want to worry about it. They want to distract it from them, right? That's the software layer on top of the infrastructure. Now you can do that in private cloud when you couldn't do that really before, right? You didn't have that degree of being able to pick and do that provisioning automatically. So I think, when you talk about a Mongo world, a Cassandra world, or a Neo4j, you start going into those developers need the right infrastructure. They care about latency, they care about microseconds, they care about the right configuration. Sometimes you're doing high performance computing, you need a heck of a lot of CPU and no memory. And what they want is to be able to provision that without worrying about where the infrastructure is or having to wait for it, right? And my view is, I've been with the company for 2.5 years, that's what this innovation is all about, is making the private cloud side now, giving a CIO an argument now. We're going to keep CIOs relevant, right? Or they're going to be out of business in 2 years, right? They are relevant by being able to be a service provider and provide the developers the same thing. That's what that software really does. That's what gets me excited, and that's what didn't exist 2 years ago.
Probably we are talking to different customers.
Well, just talking developers.
Yeah, so developers don't care. So 60%
They care about performance. They care about Microsoft. They
always care about performance. And I had a conversation with developers 10 years ago, and they said, this is low. Okay, try to put more RAM. Oh, this is faster. Put more RAM. Okay, can we put 1 terabyte of RAM in the server? And it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't care about anything. They care about themselves. And not about the infrastructure underneath. They just want it fast. They want it always available, if possible. Okay, and they are building a lot of stuff on top of it. Now they are using RAM because they don't care about storage, and the persistency layer of storage is becoming object storage. So actually, they don't actually care. Okay, they are the last person caring about that. Probably the business care about the performance more than the developers, because
they have to tune. They write in the APIs. They write that they tune. This data is going to be stored this way because I'm making a trade-off. I'm making a trade-off in consistency. I'm making a trade-off in durability because the application depends on a certain level of performance. Right? We're just making that easier now, and we're giving that same experience now that exists today in a public cloud and a private cloud. That's all. That's what's happening here.
And I kind of feel we're digressing way off.
Yeah, sorry, but the point. The point was, so I can do everything on software. Why should I buy a piece of hardware that does the same, which is a huge lock-in fee?
Why should you have to go buy that software? What if it's already built into the hardware?
Because it's a lock-in. I can change, if I have different layers, I can change the hardware vendor or the software vendor. And I can.
If your objective is to be able to change those vendors, then that's a good objective. That actually isn't the objective of most of our customers. The objective is, I need a hybrid IT solution and I need a simple path to get there, and I don't want a giant science fair project to put together in order to get there. That's the objective of most of our customers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so as a customer, that's not my aim. My aim is not to build a hybrid IT solution. My aim is to build a solution which supports the services that my business requires at the best possible price point. Now, I think there's some irony going on here where you talk about snowflakes, when actually what you're really talking about is building a snowflake based on HP hardware. It's a snowflake, it's still a snowflake because I can't swap it and choose. Say today I have a data center which I build on HP hardware. Tomorrow I look at the commodity pricing, think, to be honest, you're 15, 20 points too expensive. I'm going to swap to Dell or Supermicro. With Synergy, can I do that?
So again, let's talk about the objectives of the market today. Is the objectives to try to figure out how I'm swapping hardware? You don't see our customers coming in with, my key pain point is, how do I swap hardware? You see them coming in saying, how do I become an internal service provider to my lines of business? And so we provide that capability in the simplest way possible.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I am a customer, so I know about this, and I know about how you swap and how you start building infrastructure, which is based around heterogeneous servers. We're not so interested these days about how we orchestrate across a single hardware platform. We want to be able to orchestrate across our entire hardware platform, which could be HP, could be Dell, could be Lenovo. So I kind of think that's some of my objections as a large customer in my day job. I don't really want Synergy because it doesn't actually give me the flexibility of my supply chain and logistics that I require. And I think if Synergy was to be a real success, it would need to support the whole server infrastructure. There may be ways you could do that. I think that's probably what I see. And when you start throwing away pejorative terms like snowflake, you immediately say, actually, all we're doing is building a snowflake based on your hardware.
I think it's a fair point. And the customers have different use cases, different requirements, and have different needs. When you walk in our booth, have you been to the OpenStack Summit? Have you been to the OpenStack Summit?
I've not been to the OpenStack Summit. I've watched sessions. Some of my colleagues have.
Yeah. So no vendor lock-in is super important. We have a rack that has Dell and Cisco in our booth. Sure. People are shocked. Right, and the OpenStack and the open source layer, and Meg was the first to say that we were going to, we're going to go after no vendor lock-in. I think there's trade-offs. We talked about trade-offs earlier, right? There's trade-offs, right? And when you try to achieve it for certain customers who say, I want to reduce my data center footprint by 45%, I want a more efficient environment, I can control all my departments, and maybe this is a way to spin up different, bare metal container, OpenStack for dev test or whatever on a single environment. Then this is the way this is solved. But if they don't want that, we believe in, OpenStack, and you can run that across, great client servers. You can run that across Cloudline servers that have no frills to it, or you can run that on Dell. So I think, we're trying hard to be, to really, who's the ultimate vendor lock-in? I mean, it's AWS. you're locked in the entire stack. There's the exit fee on the way out, right? And you're locked in with we support 9 APIs, right, natively from AWS, right, as part of our eucalyptus stuff. And but I think it's interesting. They don't get any crap for being for the lock-in. We're actually the only company that I know of that's actually saying, how do we build compatibility between not just the hardware, clouds, right? I mean, our whole Microsoft partnership is about the right mix of Azure, right? Trying to have AWS compatibility, trying to have OpenStack, working with all the different partners. I think it's interesting because I think we genuinely, again, I've been here 2.5 years. I came from a startup, right? This company genuinely is trying hard to be that partner for IT for the next 20 years. And to do that, they have to transform to cloud, distributed systems, new culture, and also, they want to be locked in. And I think this is what we're trying to do. But when you try to achieve for certain users who have that grand vision, sometimes in the beginning, you have to control more of it. And I think that's what we're giving.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Open is the answer. You have to realize we have a variety of customers. We have the black diamond skiers, we have the double black diamond skiers, and we've got blue square skiers, the ones who say, I'm buying your stuff today and I want a simple path to hybrid. There's a set of those people that'll say, I just want your stack on your hardware, that's fine. We have the double blacks who are like, I want a custom, I want to be able to swap you out at any time. We want to be, we're the #1 server provider in the world. We're not naive to the fact that, we're going to have those situations where people are willing to do their own whatever stack they want to put together, and we're happy to support them, and we do that, no doubt about it.
Now, I want to get to the point of what you've just described and what Enrico said, because I wonder whether there's a misunderstanding of the technology and the way it's being deployed by people and how it's being deployed. And I'll give you an example. If I go to AWS as a developer, I go and buy a service, and I don't really care how they're doing the hardware behind the scenes. There's some guys running quickly, configuring more boxes in, flashing it with the software, so that as I spin up more VMs or whatever I'm doing, it all comes up for me based on the service catalog. In your instance, you're giving people the ability to presumably do the same on premises.
Yes, correct.
And the infrastructure guys are the ones that are doing that, spinning up and configuring and managing, whilst presumably other people are coming to request services from DevOps teams.
Yes.
But honestly, how often is that infrastructure being changed? So, how often is it being created, taken down, reconfigured? Or is it literally just a case of that people are just building and building, and once it's in, it doesn't really change that much? Because that's the bit I don't see is it really that people are creating and destroying like hourly or daily, or is this just really a nicer, easier way to build consistent stuff?
Yeah.
And can you give some examples, where
for
people might be
traditional
doing that?
apps, they're not changing that much, right? For the new style, they're changing a lot. And so I'll give you the example. We had Hudson Alpha, genomic research company, on stage with me. It turns out genomic research, when you go do that kind of work, it has pieces of the analysis and the storing of data and things like that kind of represent themselves as an HPC problem, a traditional database problem, a mobile kind of problem where you're gathering data. So it has kind of these dynamic characteristics. They have one data center and they want to be able to do all of that, and they want to be able to change that configuration constantly. And so they've changed from being able to do a config change in the order of days and weeks down to it takes them an hour to switch everything out and it's completely reconfigured for the next phase of genomic analysis or whatever they're doing. So there are a set of customers where that changing is quite frequent. It definitely is more that way for the new style of IT. The traditional guys, they can use it too. Then it's just quick to deploy. That's a nice thing for them. There are customers who want a lot of change. There are customers who don't. We make sure that it works well for both.
And what sort of percentage would you say? I mean, are you saying that 90% of customers want to change often, or is it like 5%?
I can speak of the 100-ish, up to 100 early access customers that we had, and I think we said that it was probably 60-40, or maybe 2/3 and a third. 2/3 kind of the more traditional kind of this is my next generation that has capabilities to bridge to the future, and 1/3 that's like I'm using this for containerized app development, and I want to be able to change the configuration constantly. So it's a little probably more traditional, but really importantly, that traditional customer set knows the future is coming and they want to be ready for that future. And they know that more and more over time, they're buying a data center play, right? So when they install this, they know this is my play for the next 5 years. Well, in 5 years, containers, cloud native, those kind of things on-prem are going to be really prevalent. So it's a really good future play for them, even if today they're mostly using it for traditional.
I know it's just a rumor, but what can you say or what can you share about the rumors about SimpliVity and hyperconverged?
I can never comment on rumors of any hyperconverged. There's a bunch of rumors out there. You know, you could ask 20 of them. I couldn't comment on any
This
of those
one is
kind of
coming
things.
back quite often, so there's got to be more.
Yeah, I mean,
There was no announcement, but
you
okay.
guys could generate a bunch of rumors, and I can answer
See it in the other way. Do you see added value for SimpliVity inside HPE?
I'm pretty proud of our hyperconverged offering. It's a strong offering. I think that we have capabilities that no one else has. You know, workspaces is one of those things that we talked about here today. We also have a roadmap to composability, meaning over time that hyperconverged platform will become more and more like our composable infrastructure, which because it's becoming more and more software, like we talked about in the earlier question, no other competitor has that. So I think we're in pretty strong shape. You know, certainly in all aspects of making hybrid IT simple, we'll be looking at areas that companies that would help us do that better. We'll be looking at those as targets. You know, but I wouldn't comment on any specific company.
Okay. Other question on synergy. Now that it's finally there, what's next for synergy?
Next for synergy is continuing to expand the scale. You know, the amount of chassis that you can kind of group together and be able to flex resources across. Continuing to expand the software on top. Cloud System 10 we announced at this one, expanding the capabilities of that, expanding the family. We have talked publicly that we don't plan on this form factor to be the only form factor of composability that we offer in the future, and so we're working that, because there are some customers who will say, hey, I want this more in kind of a traditional looking rack kind of thing. We're headed in that direction, so we're investing and going full speed ahead, and really encouraged by the response we're seeing from customers and by the orders we have on the books ready to go as we're ramping volume. So yeah.
Because now synergy is in SD, or what is it again?
SDCG, my group.
SDCG, all
Yeah,
those names. Yeah.
sorry.
Finally, we knew ISS, and now it's SDCG. So. That's HP, right? Because all the other traditional servers and so on, they are in another group, in DCIG.
Data center infrastructure.
Yeah. So how do you see a partnership between those two? Because, okay, there's one big bosom above it, but you see separation underneath it, so.
We're not very separated. What I mean by that is it's Alan Andrioli's team, my peer, and he and I have to work together constantly, closely. The other thing I will tell you is that we've intentionally made sure that there are pieces for success in both of our teams, even on key initiatives, meaning Alan's team is working the hardware roadmap for the current Synergy chassis. So the next generation, fabric chip that's in it, the Gen 10 upgrade on his team is working that hardware. My team is working the software value add, all the layers that allow you to do composability in one view and all of that. We come together to ship that solution. And so, so it's a partnership constantly.
Well,
and
customers shouldn't see the difference.
And the customers have no idea that
A
that's
cloud
going
conversation spans all these groups.
on. Yeah, fair. Yeah. So, yep. And by the way, we've, while that has been going on, we've now centralized organizationally under one global worldwide sales leader as well, which makes it a lot more seamless for our customers. We used to be organized a little bit by BU sales organization. Now we have a sales organization that's taking all of these missions to market. So, we no longer have the chop up in the sales, which is really where it matters to the face of the customer.
So I wanted to go back to Chris's question because I think that's an important thing. So you're like the adoption of synergy, who's using it and how they're using it. So you mentioned Hudson. Also, Emis was on.
Yeah, EMIS.
Emis.
Yes. EMIS was on stage. They're doing both. They're doing mixed environment. The thing they love is that they can get their developers direct access, and when they go develop applications on the platform, one thing they don't like is this lag between dev test and production. And now they're doing dev test and production on the same system, same configurations, immediate kind of quick transition. So we had EMIS, we had Hudson. We had Boeing on stage with me as well. Theirs is a mix of cloud native and traditional application development on the same hardware and a big data center outfit. Who else did I have? I had E+, yep, as well on stage. So all of those, turns out, were pretty much mixed. So even though I said, well, it's probably 2/3 and 1/3 traditional and mixed, maybe I underestimated, because certainly the ones we grabbed were mixed.
What I was hoping you would say is that a lot of the people that we've seen, some of them have already advanced forward. So
That's true. Some of those started as traditional, and now they're basically using it as both because they realize they can.
yeah, and if Tim Crawford was here, Tim would say data center is probably the most conservative place in the world, more conservative than the bank. And I think what we started to see is they start doing what they know that they can do, and I think EMIS is a good example of that's where they started, and this is where they progressed to. So it's kind of exciting how they've sort of morphed into doing something completely different from what they can do before.
So, just following up on that as a theme, if you look at Amazon and you look at Azure, they've obviously got some incredibly clever people who've designed that architecture and put it in place, thought through the service offerings, thought through how they were going to be deployed, and some significant support people in the background to make sure that it gets delivered. You're giving a lot of the software that enables a lot of that, but in reality, how many people are mature enough to really move to being as flexible, dynamic, creative, original as maybe, say, AWS are in their own environments? Bear in mind, the reason I said that, Chris, is you just said conservative there very obviously, and then, a lot of people I've ever worked with in IT, they wouldn't know their arse from their elbow when it came to doing something, that you'd look at stuff, and in fact, Max and I were talking about at dinner last night how hopeless some organisations are at delivering their own IT. So I wonder how much organisational change is really needed to make some of this stuff really work, or whether what they could end up doing is buying stuff from you that they get 10% value out of or 20% value out because they just don't know how to do it properly.
Well, remember, our view, and I'll let Bobby kind of weigh in here too, our view is not that it's not this versus public cloud. Right, so there's a set of things. Certainly, the Amazons, the Azures, their goal is going to be expand that set of services as broad as they can be. And imagine a bell curve of that. There's a set of services that are in the sweet spot that everybody needs to use, and then there's a bunch out on the outer lying fridge. I'm not going to try to do every outer lying kind of thing. There are some sets of services that belong in the public cloud, and our goal isn't to say everything should stay on-prem. Our goal is make hybrid as simple as possible. So we're going to provision those services. That's why in Cloud System 10 today, we provision Amazon and Azure services. That's why we're investing with Azure to do Azure Stack, which we announced on main stage yesterday, is there's going to be a set of customers where they want a bunch of that in the public cloud. Our job is to make that as easy as possible, make the experience as consistent as possible, and make sure that the infrastructure is ready to go in a variety of flexible ways for the customer when it arrives to that customer. So we won't be competing on a breadth of services kind of angle with the public cloud. There's no sense to. They can cover that, and we'll bridge that with our customers to the public cloud, and they can use those that are on the tail.
And I would just maybe take a different side of it, which is, CIOs have to transform or they're going to be irrelevant, right? And I think the new research today, 79% of all workloads in Europe are destined for private cloud over the next 2 years, right? CIOs have to shift from being an ops efficiency guy to being a value creator and a cultural warrior and these things, right? Our job is to help them do that. there's a greater number every day. You look at like a Bloomberg, big OpenStack shop, all internal, transformed from the top down. I think you see more and more CIOs now who are thinking that way. Thankfully, the technology now, though, is a lot easier than it was 2 years ago. I mean, it used to be 2.5, 3 years ago, private clouds were really, 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 really tough and often failed, right? Now the technology is much easier. Now you have hardware that's integrated into it, and now our services teams are built out. So I think we can help them on that. But what's the option now for them not to? I mean, they're going to get disrupted. Look at the insurance industry. I love that company Trove that's coming into Europe now. You all seen Trove? You take a picture of of whatever in your house you want to. They'll on your phone tell you what they'll appraise it for or what they'll underwrite it for. You turn it on or off when you leave the house. They'll only cover it when you're out. I mean, the insurance companies, traditional guys, have got to change fast. The problem is, look at August smart locks, right? Great, awesome. Y'all have one of those yet? The smart locks, right? That. Big companies are in the home security business, right? Traditional companies, they've got to change the infrastructure to support those kinds of worlds, right? It's not a monolithic old style architecture. It's a distributed architecture, right? It's a new way of doing things. It's continuous delivery. It's those kind of things. So my view is they have to transform or they're going to be out of business. And I think you see that more and more and more and more. Like we talk to our customers, and maybe you talk to a lot still, and they're not there yet. But look at healthcare. Look at NHS. NHS now has a multi-data center architecture on HPE today. It's all on open source technology that drives the Spine 2 project. So that's the National Healthcare Payer System, right? Like 7 nines are now apparently availability they've got, right?
The NHS is a good example of.
Well, I'm just giving you that project example
because we don't see any of that as an end user of the NHS.
No, all right.
We see none of that.
I'm just giving you,
which is a real shame because if there is stuff like that they do, it's a real shame that doesn't come to us at the front end because they're missing the opportunity of showing what they're doing.
But
I'll give you an example. I went and had a knee operation, not a knee operation, an examination, and they asked me to bring back the letter and the details from the people who did the exam back to my own surgery because they never get feedback. So they never have that on record as to what went on. It's the same system.
Yeah, well.
Does that contradict you what EMIS was saying yesterday?
EMIS is trying to revolutionize that, I think. So
just on that, are you saying then that the people who are being successful are the ones who've got the CIOs, who've got the better vision and the better ability to drive the delivery of those solutions? And if you don't put in a good CIO, you had it.
Well, or is it a CTO or business technology now is business strategy, right? It's got to be, right? Like in the insurance example, right? I think so. My view is that it's a board level mandate more and more to go and disrupt your own business, look out for these new startup competitors. And by the way, you look at the automotive industry, which uses a number of our technologies in OpenStack, and I can't give the examples, but they're very worried about the location data of your car. They view that as more important than the credit card data on their e-commerce site. Where are they going to put that? They're going to put that in a private cloud across multiple data centers, because of security. I think so. IT has to transform, right? Has to. And I think we're the company that, we're the one trying to make that happen, whether it's technology or it's services or, that's what we're doing. I think that's our role.
I've got about 5 minutes left.
Security sometimes is not true. You know that, Sony, for example, there are several names that
showed us in the last couple of years that they are not secure at all. They think they are secure because they don't know they have been already hacked.
Yeah, security is the number one concern. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to make a point in contrast to what the guys there are saying. My client base is primarily enterprise.
Yeah.
And in contrast to the points made there, my customers tend towards very consistent architectures, very consistent branding, both in terms of storage and in terms of x86 platform, and the migration or the movement into an OpenStack world or towards something along the lines of anything from an HC380 towards Synergy really is a much more seamless process for me. And I'm finding that in the enterprise, which is different from a service provider or even a merged company, an acquisition, something along those lines, a consistent hardware platform makes all of this much, much more
trivial.
Yep. Yeah, we have a good set of our customers who are actually even beyond that coming to us saying, we're going to trust you to take us to this new hybrid world. How are you going to take us there? And so that's what we're really doing for a big chunk of those customers, a lot of the ones we're meeting here. Well, so thank you guys for coming to Discover. Your work is extremely important, and that's why we do these. We know they're going to be the fun questions and all that, and so really appreciate it. It's always good, gives us insight, and you get to see a different side than just kind of the canned side. So I think that's a great thing. All right, thanks.